guys, it's Karen, and I thought I would come and tell you 5 things that I would not give to Watson. Just give to or use on Watson, or allow Watson to do, if you like. Just things that are a big no-no for me. And I think you might find this quite surprising. And at the end, I'm going to tell you one thing that we do give him that most people avoid, I think. The first thing that I would not give him is a dental chew, or I may give him a dental chew as a treat occasionally, but I would not give him a dental chew as part of his daily allowance, and I would not give him a dental chew to look after his teeth, because it's just ludicrous. Dental chews are not going to protect the teeth. I think a vet would tell you, from what I've read, I have looked into this and we've watched a couple of programs that were talking about cleaning dogs' teeth. The vet would tell you that may be slightly better. If a good, tough dental chew might be slightly better than doing nothing. However, it's a lot to do with the food they eat and how many preservatives are in the food, and how much sugars are in the food, etc. But also, there is no substitute for cleaning your dog's teeth. So we have cleaned Watson's teeth since we got him. And we, I don't know, probably when he's a year or 2 old, started using an electric toothbrush. The reason we did that is because it means that you don't need to brush as much. You don't need to move as much around. You can just hold the brush and move it around, and it's a bit more acceptable to him. So I wouldn't give him a dental chew, because I think even if you don't want to use a toothbrush, using a finger brush in their mouth, is going to get away, tartar, and it's going to get all the rubbish away from their mouth, and using a proper toothpaste that's got some enzymes in it is going to help. But giving them a dental chew, I just think is not going to work. I do know a couple of dogs that had dental chews all their life, and 2 of them ended up having dental work despite having these dental chews. But one of them particularly said to me, I gave her dental chews, but she felt terrible because the dog had to have its teeth removed when she was old, but she had to have pretty much all her teeth removed. And so she's now got a new puppy and is using a toothbrush on the puppy now, but a finger one, but that's good. So number 2, dry shampoo. I would not use dry shampoo on Watson. I have tried numerous dry shampoos, from sprays to foams, when he's rolled in something, fox poo normally, or when something's happened and I don't want to give him an all over wash. To be honest, if it was fox poo, or normally he likes to roll in fishy water, I would probably want to wash him all over anyway. But there was something a couple of weeks ago that I had been sent a dry shampoo, and I was like, let me give it one more chance. And so I tried to put it over. It was just a faint smell, and I was like, he's just had a wash. I don't want to wash him all over again. Let me see if I can use this. But it just confirmed what I already thought, which is that it masks the smell a little bit, but you can smell that it's like, I think I thought he'd rolled in cow poo at some point, but like I said, it was very, very faint. But when I put the dry shampoo on, all I could smell then was the perfume of that was still with a faint cow poo smell. So I feel like dry shampoo it just doesn't make any sense. You're putting something to just neutralize a smell. You're not cleaning them. You'd be better washing their fur, I think. So I threw it away, and I will not be purchasing any dry shampoo anytime soon. Number 3 is drinking from a puddle. I have seen so many dog owners letting their dogs drink from a puddle. Now, not all of them notice. I'm thinking of one a couple of weeks ago. We went to the beach, and there were people walking along and their dogs were behind them, and so maybe they didn't know that they were drinking in a puddle. But I always know where Watson is, and I always know if he's going to drink from a puddle. And I specifically wouldn't let him, because we believe, and the vet believes, that is where he got Campylobacter poisoning. I don't know how they thought that. She asked us if he'd drunk from a puddle, and he had specifically drunk from a puddle. This is obviously years ago, and then got Campylobacter poisoning, and it was just hideous. It was worse than even his tumour experience, because with the Campylobacter, he didn't eat for a couple of weeks. He would barely drink. He would barely move. He didn't want to go on walks. He was just lying in the windows, very listless. I was worried he was going to be gone every time I got up in the morning. And so I will never let him drink from a puddle, and I would recommend not letting your dog drink from a puddle, because there's a virus going around at the moment in the UK that's been on a lot of different Facebook pages and whatnot, and they're specifically saying don't let your dog drink from a puddle because they might get this virus or bacteria. I can't remember if it's a virus or bacteria, but there's something going around that's giving dogs bloody diarrhea and this awful infection. So I would never let them drink from a puddle. Number 4 is, and I think they're called an easy leader or a Holty, the one that you put around their mouth. I would never use that on Watson, because I have seen so many dogs, both when I was grooming them and also just from being out and amongst dogs, and when I was photographing dogs and all that have indentations and sores around their mouth from these types of collars. I suppose it is a collar, isn't it? Or it's almost like a muzzle. And when I see them out walking, it breaks my heart, because they more often than not come up to you and they're sort of rubbing against you like they want you to take it off. And people will tell you that they do that as soon as you put it on them, but then they just kind of resign themselves to it. And I just think they're not enjoying their walks as much. I'm not saying that every dog is like this, because maybe there's a way of fitting it looser that doesn't indent in their face, but I've seen a lot of them where it's cutting into their skin, it's digging into their skin, and they just don't look comfortable. And I have never yet met a dog that is comfortable in them. And you can buy a harness with a front ring, Walk with Love harness for a start. It's called Walk Your Dog with Love, but there's a lot of harnesses that have front D rings. That's how we do it, because Watson is a puller, and so if he's pulling, I will hook him onto the front of his harness. And that's much nicer and much kinder than these ones that they have around their face. And like I said, this is simply from experience. I'm talking about like 20-30 dogs I've seen and talked to and experienced, and had grooming where the hair is like disappeared, and it's just all red and painful, and they're just, in my opinion, not the greatest things. And finally, number 5, this is actually very specific to Watson and his IBD. I'm aware of that, but I would not give him anything greater than 15% fat. And I think that this would be a good rule for you to have, if possible, with your dog, because a lot of dogs get pancreatitis, and a lot of dogs are prone to pancreatitis because of their breed. And so if you want to give your dog treats and you want them to have little treats here and there, if you try and get something that's less than 15% fat, it's going to do less damage to their stomach, regardless of whether they've got problems or not. But for Watson, I have found that that's his threshold, that if I give him anything over 15% fat, that's what kind of flares up his inflammatory bowel disease. But anything underneath it, within reason, I can give him treats without worrying. And you'll always find under analytical constituents how much fat is in a product. So those are the 5 things that I would not give to Watson. But like I said, there is one thing that I would give him. In fact, I have one right here, and I think you might be surprised. This is rawhide, and this is very, very simple rawhide. I used to give him something called, they were by Fold Hill, and they were rawhide chips, I think they were called, and they were this size, but they were beef flavoured, and he preferred those. And there is another version I have that is a long, thick one, like a sort of long cigar, but it's got duck wrapped around it. And these two have 2 different circumstances. So the long cigar one with the duck wrapped around it, we gave to Watson. I think we'd been sent these maybe in a box, a subscription box or something like that. I sent one of them, and I had given it to Watson after an operation when he was kind of struggling a bit. He was crying for a few days. It was horrible. And he sort of used it almost as a dummy. He was just chewing on it for the 3 days, and he barely had like that much of it. He sort of picked all the duck off it, because the duck is quite tightly dried to it, and he picked all the duck off it and then was just sort of chewing the end like a kind of dummy. And so the reason that I would give, that would be the reason I would give him one of those. I have got a couple of them, but he never really gets them. I wouldn't give him them every week or anything like that. It's just if he doesn't want to eat, he's had a little operation, because he's had quite a few operations, probably 4 by now. I would give him one of those, just a kind of comfort thing. But I would keep a very close eye on him. And if it looked like he was eating through it, I'm not going to let him eat this great big long thing. With this, it's a really weird situation, but I can't even remember why we ended up getting these, but he wants one of these thrown in the air when his dad comes home as a kind of celebration. It's really bizarre. He's got a lot of little quirks, my guy, that have come about, and we don't know how they happened. But so Kev will come in and Watson runs and jumps all over him. Then he runs in here and is looking for this. And I've tried to replace it with different things and he's not interested. Watson is not interested in Puddles or any of the other long-lasting chews other than ones that upset his tummy that he can't have, of course. So this one is one of the ones he wants. So Kev has to come in here, pick this up, throw it in the air. Watson sort of throws himself around in a half circle and then sits and chews it for about a minute, and he has about that much of it. And that's it. So when I say he has rawhide, I wouldn't let him eat the whole of this chew because I think it might upset his tummy. I'm not sure. But they are low fat and they do not upset his tummy at all. There have been times where he's eaten a bit more and it hasn't upset his tummy. And so I know that there's something that's low fat that doesn't upset his tummy. And I think that's the biggest problem with rawhide. There's a lot of videos out there on how it's made and that it's, there's nothing natural in it and yada, yada. But you've got to remember that dogs' stomachs are very, very different to ours. He eats raw food that would poison us. He eats raw pork that would poison us. That's not something we can eat. And I think their stomachs are very hardy for the most part. I mean, Watson's obviously is a little bit less so. I'm not saying this is healthy. I'm not saying it's good for them. I'm just saying that for Watson, it doesn't upset his tummy. It doesn't cause him digestion problems. It may do for some dogs. The other thing is there is a choking risk with some of these things, which is why we watch him. We wouldn't leave him alone with one of these. And if he did, we were going to let him eat it and it got to like there, we would take it off him because then he might try and eat the whole thing and it gets stuck in his throat or whatever. So that's my kind of caveats. So when I say he gets it, he doesn't get very much of it, but they are things that I have in and I think people are sometimes surprised. Okay, that's everything. I hope that you found that interesting. Hopefully nobody's offended by that. Please let me know if you have a dog that you use a whole tea thing on their muzzle and they're fine with it. There may be breeds that are okay with it. There may be breeds that have more fur that it's okay, or maybe you use a particular type that's okay, or maybe there's padded ones or something. I don't know, but please let me know because it is something I worry about with dogs, and so I'm happy and open to hearing the opposite opinions if that makes sense. Yeah, that's everything. Thank you very much for listening and I'll speak to you again soon.